Well, Latin America is one of several regions welcoming Chinese investment. For more on this topic, we're joined by Ross Feingold, Senior Advisor of DC International Advisory. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
So, Ross, set the scene for us. What are we seeing in terms of the size and scope of China's overseas investments so far this year?
Well, it's certainly growing, and the unique thing about Chinese investment as distinguished, say, from European or U.S. investment overseas is that the Chinese companies, many of them are state-owned, and they work very closely with the government of China to achieve strategic goals, and we certainly see that here in Asia with initiatives such as One Belt, One Road, AIIB, where Chinese companies and the government work very closely to expand the scope of Chinese investment. And the reality is that this type of investment, especially infrastructure investment, is very welcome in some of the recipient countries.
Now, we know that Europe has been one of the hot destinations when it comes to Chinese investments. Why Europe, and what are the other hot destinations?
Well, Europe is always looked at, especially London, before the Brexit at least, was looked at as a place of stability, a place with very well-developed legal and systems and financial markets, with very high-quality housing, leisure destinations, good schools. So certainly a great place to buy property, raise a family, highly educated workforce. So there are a lot of good reasons why Chinese companies would be looking to Europe. And frankly, they were very welcoming in Europe. From a government perspective, you don't see as much opposition as you often see in the United States to Chinese investment. But with the instability in Europe and for strategic reasons, I think we're going to see Chinese companies looking very closely at ASEAN and South Korea and Japan in the coming year because it fits with China's goals, and there's still great demand for investment by Chinese companies in these markets.
Now, not everyone has been as welcoming. There's been rising concern and scrutiny of Chinese investment among some EU countries and the US. How do you interpret that?
Well, part of it's a reaction to the political winds, right? We've seen the rise of populism, anti-free trade sentiment, both in Europe and the United States in recent months, and that's been reflected in election results, not just in the United States, but in other countries as well. So there is demand from the public for greater scrutiny of some kinds of investments. And obviously, it's more so the case when it's in sensitive industries, things that might have to do with cybersecurity, the production of information technology equipment. But we do sometimes see it more broadly in sectors where you would think there are no security concerns. And sometimes that's just protectionism. That's fears of loss of jobs, fears of outsourcing of jobs to China. And again, we don't see these concerns as much in Asia Pacific. So that's another reason why Chinese companies are probably going to be looking more closer to home than looking at Europe and the United States in 2017.
Certainly something we'll be keeping an eye on. Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. Ross Feingold, Senior Advisor of DC International Advisory.